First of all, Ernest, I would like to start off by giving a shout out to FYF Sports Debates podcast. I really love that podcast. I really do.
Worthy of all his praise, that still ain't enough. Yeah, you don't know how hard I prayed, and he looked in my grave and he told me get up. Yeah, at times I wanted to give up, told me trust him, even with faith the same size as the mustard seed. Yeah, that was enough to me right where I'm at. Free me from places that I can't go back. Reckless to righteous when Christ is in that. Called on his name cause his power's unmatched. Had me in shackles, said he broke the chain. Killing my flesh, he's my license for that. We know my mind, so my mindset for that. When they set up, by God can't be set back. Ready, set, go. Yeah, he made me ready, he set me up, then told me go.
FYF Sports, man. It's Lamont. We back. And we got our NCAA Tournament selection show. Make sure you guys go check out the community post, y'all. We having our own NCAA Tournament bracket challenge. I'm going to be sharing that link in the chat today. I just got to pull it up real quick and then share it. But we having our own bracket challenge show. So while we make these picks, you guys are gonna want to take notes. You're going to want to take notes on all of these. We're going to be breaking down some of the most crucial matchups in the NCAA tournament, at least the ones that we feel you want to keep an eye on. It's extremely difficult to pick the perfect bracket, but we are going to try to do it here on FYF Sports today. Maybe the first time in NCAA tournament history we get it done today, this afternoon here on FYF Sports. Salute to everybody in the chat, man. Miss Diva, Brian, Rap Guy, Reloaded, Nicholas Brown, I see you in there. Salute to everybody in the show today. We got to make our picks today. He says, rock, chalk, will not repeat. I agree. I haven't done one bracket yet. I before I did the show, I said, I don't want to put any biases in my mind. I don't want to, I have from what I've seen so far the college season, I have my own thoughts for each team. For the teams that I'm not as familiar with, I'm going to be using the ESPN resources. I'm going to be showing you guys some of those things. I think some of the things that I like to look at before we get into this, some of the things that I really like to look at when I'm trying to determine the strength of a team. Strength of schedule is one, and then top 50 wins. Especially when you're looking at the lower seeded teams. And I think there are some teams that are kind of underseeded that can do some damage. But then I also see some teams that are overseeded that I think might fall early. And a lot of that sometimes, especially with the higher seeds, has nothing to do with strength of schedule. I think a lot of it with some of the higher seeds is about chemistry. And then how well you play under pressure. There's a number of teams that I feel like wilt under pressure. But then also you have to take into consideration recency bias. There were some teams going into the tournament not playing so great, but then all of a sudden we see teams like that have a wake-up call and then make a run. For example, a team like IU, they go into the tournament, watching them play recently, they don't look so cohesive. but we know they're a good team. They were able to beat Purdue twice this year. I mean, you don't just beat Purdue twice this year if you're not a good team. Can they put it together and make a run? Because that's all it's about in this tournament. It's about who can put it together at the right time and make a run. Maybe you might have a shaky first game. Maybe you shake the rust off, sneak out the first round, and then you make your run from there. And so these are the things we have to consider when we are making our picks, man. Salute to Jason Brown. He says he got Kansas State winning it all. I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of Kansas State. I'll have to really look to their strength of schedule, see their top 50 wins to do a little bit more on them. Like I said, I have some teams in mind. I have some teams that I feel like at the 8-9 range that I think can make a sneaky run. He says, real talk, Lamont, this NFL free agency frenzy is about to overshadow the tournament. Probably so, but we still talking about the tournament, though. Actually, let me go ahead and pull up this link. Let me see if I can find it real quick because I want to share this bracket link with y'all. We doing our own bracket challenge here on FYF Sports. It's $2 per bracket, winner take all. So basically, you throw your $2 in the cash out for each bracket that you put in, and we'll see how it pans out at the end of the tournament, right? You said it's going to be on ESPN. So let me go ahead and share that link with you guys in the chat. If I can find it here. But I want to see in the chat, man, while I'm pulling this up. Well, I want to know what y'all Final Four picks are. I mean, I honestly, the national champion is, we're probably all going to be wrong about the national champion. But I think for the most part, a lot of people can get the Final Four correct. That's what I want to know. He says Houston got beat by Memphis, and Memphis is one of those teams, y'all. Memphis is one of those teams that is peaking at the right time. So, that's something you got to take into consideration. All right, let me get this link. All right, here it is right here. All right, I'm about to throw this link in the chat, man. FYF Sports Debates Tournament Challenge. Make sure y'all click it. Make sure y'all get y'all brackets in. Make sure y'all get y'all bracket entry fees paid. You don't want to miss out on it. All right, here it is right here. He says Purdue will lose in the second round. And Mahari, you know what? When I looked at Purdue's bracket, I really feel sorry for the number 1 and number 2 seed in that bracket. That is probably one of the toughest brackets that I've seen in a long time. When you look at the teams that's loaded, and we're going to be talking about that later, but Purdue's bracket is loaded with blue bloods. And those are the types of teams you want to avoid. But if you can make it out of that bracket, you're going to be the most battle tested. If you can make it out, whoever makes it out of that bracket is going to be the most battle tested for sure. I think that's the, I can't remember what coach that's on, but it's tough. All right, here, let me get this in here. It's FYF Sports Bracket Challenge. The link is going to be in the chat there. Let's get y'all brackets in there. Let's get y'all brackets in. And if you need it again, I can drop the link again for you guys. Just let me know if you need it again. Wisdom Warrior says Purdue has to play either FAU or Memphis the next round. Shit won't be easy. FAU is legit. I believe they can beat FAU. Memphis is the type of team that gives Purdue problems. I think if Purdue faces Memphis in that second round, it's either Purdue's going to win by 20 or they'll lose a really close game. I don't think there's no in between because they're not going to have much wiggle room to play with a team like Memphis. And so in a coach like Penny Hardaway, who's hungry right now, right? A lot of people have been down on his Memphis teams. I think this is Penny Hardaway's opportunity to really put his stamp of approval on that program. This is where he can really prove to everybody that the Memphis Tigers are legit. He's just not bringing all these high power recruits and being subpar. This is where he can really prove himself, but he's gonna have to get through Zach Edey and the Purdue University Boilermakers. That's gonna be a tall task, because whenever you have a player where you can literally just dump it down in the post and it's either a layup or a foul almost every time, I mean, that gives your guards a ton of credit. So when you look at those freshmen on that Purdue team, this is why they're playing with a ton of confidence. And then they have a ton of power forwards on that team that are extremely physical and can make shots, extend it out to the three-point line. If they play with confidence and they don't let the ball pressure stifle them, because that's where teams get Purdue. They'll put some extremely active and lengthy wings on the point guard, and those and I think that's Purdue's weakness this year. That freshman point guard who's really good, but he's 5'11", he's small. And teams have been applying pressure to him, and they've been really blowing up that Purdue offense. I believe Memphis will be all over the court if they play Purdue. Purdue will have some problems. But again, you got to remember on the flip side of that, they got to face Purdue. They got to deal with the problems that Purdue brings. And if they get down early, you're not coming back against that Purdue team. If you go down 10, 15 points early, you're not coming back. To beat Purdue, you got to jump off to a hot start. You got to make them play from behind. All right, the 5-12 matchups in each region is sick. I know. And you know what? Every time I think that the 5-12 matchups are going to be full of upsets, they never are. I mean, I'm almost positive we'll have at least 1-12 seed beat a 5, maybe more. But I think this year it's probably going to be about 3-5 seeds advancing. I truly believe that. Like the Miami-Drake game, I don't see Miami losing to Drake. I've watched a few Drake games this year. I just don't see it. So we're going to get to that. Let me go ahead and get started with our bracket. Like I said, on some of the tougher matchups, we're going to hit our analyzer right here. That's going to take us in. We can look at points per game versus the top 25, their BPI, their conference ranking, their points per game. And I think that's what's going to help us out the most when we get into some of them tough matchups. He says Purdue's defense will be tough to score against. Purdue's defense is tough. Purdue struggles when teams try to speed them up. But if you allow Purdue to dictate pace and play their own pace, you're going to be in trouble. You have to dictate the pace when you play Purdue. You have to play fast. You have to play extremely aggressive on ball. And you have to try to disrupt those half-court sets, because the one thing Matt Painter knows how to do is he knows how to play in the half court, and they will outpace you if they slow the game down. You will not stand a chance. You have to speed the game up, make them play at a frenetic pace, get them frustrated. Hopefully they start taking bad shots. Maybe they start going away from Edey. You said, unfortunately, the Big Ten struggles in tournaments. They do. They do. And I believe they will struggle this year. But there's that one team in the Big Ten that has the biggest mismatch in the country, and that's Zach Edey and the Purdue Boilermakers. Whenever you have that type of advantage, it's hard for me to just pick teams to beat you. Professor JB says he got KU, Marquette, Bama, Texas, final. Marquette's a team that's peaking at the right time. Shaka Smart has that team playing defense. And unlike with other teams, like some of the teams he had at VCU and Texas, Shaka Smart now has an elite offense. He has shooters. He has size. He has depth. So, and then he's Shaka Smart. He's one of the best NCAA tournament coaches in the field. Professor JB says Texas wins it all. Texas has a very favorable bracket. Problems, though. They do have some problems. They might have to get through Iowa State. They're going to have to try to get through Texas A&M. I don't believe Penn State, if Penn State moves on, I don't believe Penn State can beat Texas. And then you still have Auburn, I think, is a sleeper. And then Iowa, because we're going to be talking about my sleepers too. So as we go through each region, I'm going to tell you guys my sleeper team in each region. Not necessarily can win it all, but these sleeper teams can completely disrupt that bracket. They can completely blow it up and make it extremely hard for teams that we might be picking to succeed. So let's go ahead and start in the South region. Obviously, the 1 seed, Alabama, I got them moving on. All right. Maryland, West Virginia. We already at an 8-9 game. This is like one of those classic 8-9 games where I'm talking about you have two teams that are extremely equal. Now, just based on what I've seen so far, it's going to be hard for me to pick Maryland in this one. When you look at the record, Maryland at 21-12, and then you see West Virginia at 19-14, a lot of people are going to be look at that record and be like, man, I got to go with Maryland. In West Virginia's 4-8 versus the top 25. Maryland's 5-4. So Maryland, they have the better quality wins there. That's primarily because they play in the Big Ten, and there's a ton of Big Ten teams that were ranked this year. So that's what I think bolstered it a lot for them. The BPI has Maryland ranked 20th, West Virginia 23rd. West Virginia had a losing record in conference, but West Virginia can't score the ball, averaging 76.3 points per game. And so with the game predictor right here, the game predictor is favoring Maryland in this one. And so we could just take that. You could just take that right there. Obviously, I like to look at these notable results because you're talking about quality. Maryland, they have beaten Purdue this year. They won one, they lost one. They lost to Tennessee. They beat IU as well. They lost to Michigan State. They beat Northwestern, who was ranked for a short period of time. So again, most of their quality wins came in the Big Ten. When you look at West Virginia, they lost to Purdue. They lost to Kansas 3 times. It means they struggle against the top tier competition. I think that's a red flag to me that they couldn't get Kansas once out of 3 games. They did beat Iowa State twice, and Iowa State won that conference, I believe. But they lost to Texas twice. They lost to Baylor twice. They did split with Kansas. So again, when I look at that right there, I think those are red flags for West Virginia. My heart is telling me to go with West Virginia. The logical pick will be to go with Maryland. But it's something about West Virginia in the tournament, man. The way they turn up defensively, the way Bob Huggins gets those teams to defend. I got to go with West Virginia, the 9 seed, upsetting the 8. I believe this is where one of the first Big Ten teams fall. I don't see Maryland moving past a West Virginia team coached by Bob Huggins. I just got to go with West Virginia. Again, it's not the most logical pick. Almost every factor, almost every indicator that you might see is going to tell you that Maryland's going to win that game. But I just got to go with Bob Huggins in this one right here. Mahari says, I watched both Indiana-Purdue games, and Indiana played a fast-paced game, forced Purdue to rush shots. That's how you have to do with Purdue. You have to speed them up. Remember, they got freshmen in the backcourt. They got 2 freshmen. These are really talented freshmen, but they are not the best ball handlers, and they do not handle pressure the best. And this is where we've seen Purdue struggle over the years in the tournament. All right, Kirk Royce says West Virginia, Michigan State. If it's a coin toss, go with experience. That's what I said. I got with me, West Virginia. It's the coaching. It's Bob Huggins. It's that team. They always show me a ton of grit. And Maryland hasn't really shown me that this year. Next pick right here. We're gonna try to progress along a little faster in this, and we'll stop on some of the tougher matchups, the 5-12 matchups. I've been hearing a ton about Charleston, San Diego State versus Charleston. I've been hearing a ton about this Charleston team. Charleston 31-3 record. I mean, a team that's 31-3, that's a winning team. That tells me they have a lot of seniors, a lot of experience. They're 0-1 versus the top 25, but San Diego State's 0-2 versus the top 25. All right, Charleston, they have a lower BPI. San Diego State has a higher BPI. They both did really well in conference, but as you can see right here by points per game, Charleston can score the ball at 80 points per game. But me, I've been watching San Diego State this year. I've been watching them. I got to go with San Diego State in this one. I know all of the experts are saying that this is a game where Charleston will upset San Diego State. I don't know if I see it. San Diego State has been very solid this year. Wisdom Warriors, he says, Charleston takes a lot of threes. Charleston takes a lot of threes, but they aren't efficient at it. Stadium does a great job of covering the three ball. And no, I've watched them play this year. I think they're sneaky good. I think San Diego State is sneaky good. All right, we got West Virginia Furman. Now, West Virginia Furman is one of the few 4-13 matchups where a lot of people are saying you need to watch out for Furman. And when I watched West Virginia play this year, every time I watched them play this year, I was highly disappointed. They don't have the skill that I've seen them have in the past. They don't have the defensive discipline that I've seen them have in the past. But at the end of the day, I just don't see a school by the name of Furman beating this West Virginia team. I got to go with West Virginia right here. I'm not even going to spend too much time talking about it. But West Virginia will be on upset alert, y'all. Like as much as we don't want to give Furman any consideration, West Virginia will be on upset alert. And it's not because of how good Furman is. It's because of how bad West Virginia has been. He said, Robert Bruce said, let's go Providence. Did Providence even make it? I think Providence got left out, didn't they? Did Providence even make it into the field? NC State has a top 3 backcourt. I've been hearing about NC State. We're going to have to talk about them when I get there. All right, we got Creighton and NC State right here. All the experts were saying Creighton severely outclasses NC State. NC State does have a really strong backcourt. But Creighton plays a very weak schedule a lot of times. But it says they're 5-7 versus the top 25. You have to take that into consideration. Is that mostly damage done within conference? Probably so. Do they have any legit top 25 wins? Now, Creighton's BPI is 11th. Creighton does have very good coaching. Okay, JJ says Kentucky is playing Providence. Okay, so Providence did make it in. All right. Kentucky's on upset alert if they play in Providence. We'll get to that one later, though. NC State's 2-2 versus the top 25. I want to look at their notable wins. So right here, team summary says, don't call Creighton a sleeper. Creighton is complete, well-rounded team. 5th appearance in the past 6 years. They have the 2-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year on their team. Take that into consideration. All right, but the Wolves, they set their backcourt at sales. Hey, the one thing that runs the tournament, y'all, if you have a solid backcourt, guards run the tournament. If you know anything about the tournament. NC State with a solid record of 23-10, they could potentially be a bit underseeded. But you know what, though? I feel like too many people are giving Creighton an edge in this one. Creighton's a tough team. They're well coached. But it's something about those star backcourts that just can get you through tough games in the NCAA tournament. I'm going with the upset. I'm taking the 11 over the 6 seed right here. I'm taking NC State over Creighton in this one right here. Call me crazy. I just have a funny feeling about this one right here. Baylor versus UC Santa Barbara. UC Santa Barbara finished strong. I think they won that conference tournament, but I just don't see them beating. The Baylor Bears in this one. I think Baylor moves on easily in this one. Let's go to Missouri, Utah State. A lot of people say Missouri's on upset alert versus Utah State. Utah State can play. I'm not going to lie about that. Utah State can play. Missouri will be on upset alert, but do they lose to a Utah State team? I don't know. Utah State's 0-2 versus the top 25. If they would have had a better record versus the top 25, I could have potentially leaned on Utah. Wisdom Warrior says Utah State is legit. I mean, they may be legit, but you got to show me something. When I'm making these picks, you got to show me something. We can look at their quality of wins. So they lost to San Diego State 3 times. See, that tells me something right there. When the only comp in your conference and you're getting smashed by them 3 times, how legit are you? Let's say you split or you lose, or at least you get 1. All right. They split with Nevada. They did beat Oral Roberts. They beat New Mexico twice. I don't see a lot of quality wins there. When you look at Missouri, though, they beat Tennessee twice. They did lose to Alabama twice, and they got blown out by Kansas. They lost to A&M. They did beat Iowa State, the conference champions, by 17. They smacked Kentucky, they split with Arkansas, and they beat Illinois by 22. I cannot support. I don't see anything that justifies me picking Utah State over Missouri. Missouri has the experience. They have the quality wins. They seem to be the better team, and Utah State hasn't shown me anything. It says Utah State is a favorite in that game. That ain't an upset. Y'all might say Utah State is the favorite. I don't see Utah State beating that Missouri team. I don't see it happening. We got Arizona, Princeton. Princeton, congrats for making the tournament. Your tournament will end very abruptly versus the Arizona Wildcats. So I think they're severely outclassed right there. No chance at all for Princeton to pull off the upset versus Arizona. We go to the other side in the Midwest. We got the other side in the Midwest. We got Houston and North Kentucky. Obviously, I just got to go with Houston right there. Houston will not lose in the first round. Kelvin Sampson is just too good of a coach. Another intriguing matchup, Iowa versus Auburn. Iowa at the 8 seed. I think Iowa got seeded a bit too high. I don't believe Iowa's an 8 seed. I believe Iowa should be a 9 or 10 seed. They are not the same team. They rely on too many threes, and they don't have very good guard play. They have a ton of guys that can jack threes up, though. If they get hot, they can give you problems. Auburn's a defensive team. Auburn is a defensive team. I don't even have to look at the numbers. Auburn's going to beat Iowa. They're going to be this is the next Big Ten team to fall. I do not see Iowa beating this Auburn team. This is an Auburn team that I think early in the year might have been ranked. I think they went through a rough patch. I don't see this Iowa team, a team that's severely overseeded to me. I don't see them getting past it. He says the Pac-12 got horrible seeding in tournaments. They sometimes they do. And, the selection committee, they have a tough job as far as seeding this. 609 AJ says Auburn should win. Yeah, I got Auburn winning this. I think they're the superior team. And when Auburn moves on into that second round, Houston will be on upset alert. Houston can easily get beat. Bootzilla said hardest game for me potentially is the UCLA Gonzaga matchup. I don't know about that. Yeah, I got some questions about those two teams even advancing. We're going to be talking about that when we get down. He says, did your team? Yeah, GCU's in the tournament, Ricky E24. We won our conference tournament. We got to play Gonzaga first round. We got Miami and Drake. I talked about that Miami-Drake matchup earlier. I got to go with Miami. This is another 5-12 matchup. They can get tricky, but Miami's been very solid. Drake is a good team. I think Drake can make this game closer than what it's supposed to be, and it might be close down the stretch, but I think Miami pulls it off. Miami beats Drake. We got Indiana, Kent State. Now, this is a tricky game right here because Kent State's a good team. This is a good team with a lot of seniors. They're 0-2 versus the top 25, but they have a decent BPI ranking. They have a solid record overall, so they have a lot of wins under their belt. Right? They put up 76 points per game. And IU's not favored by much. They did beat Purdue twice. But if you look at all of Kent State's losses, they only lost to Gonzaga by 7. They only lost to Houston by 5. They lost to Charleston, which is a very good team, by 2. So they played all of the good teams that they came up against. They played them close. IU's on upset alert, y'all. Indiana is trash. I don't like their style of play. The big man that they have is not very skilled at all, but they will consistently dump the ball down there in there to him like he's an all-star stud. And really, he's just playing bully ball with smaller bigs. But when he goes up against legit bigs, I don't know if he can do much. I don't like this IU team. I think they play selfish. I think their offense is horrible. I think they give very, very lackluster defense on the defensive end. I don't trust IU. I don't know. I might have to come back to this Indiana-Kent State matchup because I'm going to have to think about that because this is where I see a 4 seed could go. Actually, you know what? I got to go with Kent State on this one. I don't like IU. I talked about potentially teams with rough patches coming in. But, I don't know, man. Kent State can beat IU, and IU has not been playing the best brand of basketball. I got Kent State with the upset over IU, man. IU's going home, man. Go ahead, pack it up for them. Iowa State, they're playing either Mississippi State or Pittsburgh. Mississippi State, inconsistency this year. Pittsburgh was a team that was ranked. Pittsburgh was ranked for a good portion of the year. They played some good competition. They found a way to be ranked. So they're going to be solid comp right here. All right. So it's going to be based on this is going to be predicated on who wins this game. I believe Pittsburgh wins the game, but I think Iowa State outclasses both of these teams. I got Iowa State moving on past either Mississippi State or Pittsburgh. We got Xavier, Kennesaw State. I got Xavier sending Kennesaw State home. This is just one of those matchups where Xavier just got a good seat. Xavier got extremely favorable seeding right here. A 3 seed for Xavier is extremely high. I wouldn't have been surprised if Xavier was a 5 seed. Jaden says, Indiana sold my parlay. I hope they get bounced. Yeah, Indiana messed my parlay up too. That's what I'm saying. They're clowns. When it comes to big games, Indiana, they play like clowns. But they waited to the last 45 seconds of the game to actually start playing. They play clown basketball, man. I'm done with IU. Every time I have them on a parlay, every time they were ranked, they come off a big win against Purdue. They're going to play some slouches in the Big Ten, and then they lose. You cannot trust IU, and I think that Kent State team is the perfect team to go ahead and send them home. We got Texas A&M, Penn State. Penn State team made a great run in the Big Ten tournament. How? Because of Micah Shrew. That coach over there, he used to be an assistant for Purdue University. One of the absolute best coaches in the country. He can take a group of scrubs and have them playing like they truly belong. This Penn State team, talent-wise, should not be in the tournament. Micah Shrew has them in the tournament. Are they outclassed by A&M? Yes. But A&M needs to be careful because they are going up against one of the best X's and O's coaches in the country that nobody knows about. A&M need to wake up very quickly because this Penn State team, every time I doubted them, they pulled off a win. AJ says, 609, AJ says, Xavier is a 3, but Texas A&M is a 7. Yeah, I don't get that. I think Texas A&M as a 7 is kind of low. But Texas A&M is running up against one of the hottest teams in the country. They're running up against one of the best coaches in the country. Y'all might not know him, but a lot of people in the Midwest do. I know Matt Painter knows him. Right? He was associate head coach under Matt Painter for a couple of years before he took that Penn State job. He can recruit and he can coach. I'm going with Penn State with the upset. They don't have the talent, but they play with a lot of grit and they find ways to win games. And whatever game plan that he brings out there, I trust that those players will execute. Right? He got those guys. He has those guys playing with a ton of confidence. CA3 Sports Talk says Penn State also has one of the best guards in the country. Yes, they do. Penn State probably has top 3. Oh, yeah, for sure. He's one of the most underrated coaches in the country. Right? When he was with Purdue, he did a hell of a job recruiting. He moved to Penn State and immediately made an impact with talent that no coach would have wanted to walk in on. Texas and Colgate, I got to go with Texas right here. No chance. Colgate have a nice trip out to the Midwest. Hotel stay. I hope you have good steaks, but Colgate, you're going to be going home after you play Texas. It's not going to be close. Texas should win that one by 20 or better. All right. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the other regions. So we just did our first round matchups. So we're going to get down to the other half of this right here, down here. So we got the East region. We're going to start with this East region, and we got our West region right here. Purdue. I believe Purdue is going to be either one of these teams. I got Memphis and FAU. Memphis is peaking at the right time. right? FAU, they don't have any games versus the top 25. But they have very similar BPI rankings. Memphis at 31 and FAU at 30 at 35. But you know what Memphis is good at? Memphis is good at beating these lower tier teams. They're really good at that. They might struggle against the top dogs, but these lower tier teams, they know how to chop them up. I believe Memphis smacks FAU. I believe Memphis beats them solidly and move on to the second round to play Purdue. You got Duke and Oral Roberts. Duke is probably the hottest team in basketball right now. Duke is probably the hottest team in basketball right now. They're peaking at the right time. They struggled early. They took a blowout to Purdue to start the year. CA3 says Kendrick Davis is one of the best. All right, that's facts. All right. But Duke is going to beat Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts had a great season this year. They're a really good team. They always put up a fight in the tournament. I think Duke needs to be mindful, especially at that 5 spot. I mean, it's just the curse of the 5 spot. Duke has played some really good basketball, but we've also seen Duke play some really bad basketball. Do I see them reverting back to that right now? No, I think they're peaking at the right time. I got to go with Duke. We got Tennessee and Louisiana. I saw somebody putting in the chat that Louisiana was really good. And I haven't really followed much of Tennessee this year. I've seen them ranked, but I know the one time I had them in my parlay, they failed. They sold on me. All right. So we got Louisiana. They're 0-1 versus the top 25, 99 BPI ranking. Tennessee has a number 2 BPI ranking with a 23-10 record. 5-3 versus the top 25. All right. They beat Alabama twice. They beat Alabama. They beat Kansas. They beat Texas. They lost to Kentucky twice. They beat Maryland. They beat Arkansas. They have a ton of quality wins. I think this one's fairly easy right here to me. I don't see Louisiana. I don't see them beating Tennessee. Tennessee moves on to play Duke. That's going to be a tough 4 or 5 matchup if we see those teams. CA3 Sports Talk says, he says, Oral Roberts has 4 players from the Sweet 16 plus Max Abrams. He's always going to be a tough guy to play against. Yeah, that's true. But they're going up against Duke. I mean, for as good as Oral Roberts could potentially be, they're literally going up against the hottest team in college basketball right now. Duke is peaking at the right time. All of their guys, they're hitting on all cylinders. It's just right. It's just wrong place, wrong time for Oral Roberts. Anybody else, any other 5 seed, let's say if Oral Roberts matched up against St. Mary's as the 5 seed or something like that, they stand a chance. Not against Duke. And I think Duke is maybe a tinge underseeded at 5, but Duke didn't have the best regular season. You said they have a 7-5 center. We'll have to see how it pans out. I just don't see it giving Duke any problems. Not the way Duke's playing. We got Kentucky Providence. Kentucky Providence, man. Kentucky this year reminds me of IU. They sell games away. They really only have one good player. And I forget his name. The tall, light-skinned guy. They only have one guy that looks like he's out there playing winning basketball. The rest of them look like they're playing iso ball. They look like a team that doesn't really listen to the coach. They don't really try to run real offense. They look like a team that goes out there and says, we got more 5-star recruits than you, so we're going to win. And then they end up getting smacked up because they don't play like a team. I got Providence taking Kentucky out in the first round. I don't like what I'm seeing from John Calipari in recent years. He's tried to, when you talk about stacking the deck, he's definitely done a good job of stacking the deck. The one thing Calipari struggles with is the X's and O's of basketball, right? I think his big on the interior is overrated. I think they go to him far too much. They don't really utilize the pick and roll much. They don't run very much offense. They're horrible in transition. I got to go with Providence, right? This might be a bad pick. This might be a horrible pick. I got to go with Providence in this one right here. And look, we're in the East bracket right now. Make sure you guys sign up for the bracket challenge, y'all. FYF Sports Bracket Challenge. I'm putting the link in the chat again. Make sure y'all get signed up. It's $2 a bracket, winner take all. Get signed up over on ESPN, man. Link is in the chat, man. I'm dropping it one more time. Let's get your brackets in. Let's have a big turnout this year. Last year, it was pretty good as well, pretty competitive. I think we had about 20 to 30, 20, 25, 30 people in there. I can't remember the exact number. Let's get going. Let's get this bracket challenge, man. Let's try to get a group of about 100 people in on this bracket challenge. Kirk Roy says Kentucky struggles early in tournaments. I still got Kentucky too much talent. I don't really see the talent, though. I was never impressed with Kentucky. And when I watched the Providence this year and the coaching and how much that coach is invested in that team as far as winning, I got to go with Providence, man. Probably the wrong pick, right? When I do other brackets or other places, I'll probably go with Kentucky. But watching both teams play this year, I'm just going with Providence. Like I said, I'm not really trying to overthink it. I'm just going to go with what I've seen. I'm going to trust what I've seen from these teams. It may be wrong, but I'm not about to sit here and overthink it and allow these seedings, the numbers next to the team. I'm not going to allow it to fool me, especially after I've watched these teams play. We got Kansas State, Montana State. Montana State, I really hope they enjoy their trip out to the the East Coast, but Montana State will be going home. But salute to those guys for getting this far. But this is just going to be a game where Kansas State just beats up on an inferior talent. Michigan State, USC. USC, very talented team. Underperformed big time this year for whatever reason. Spent some time ranked. Michigan State's another team where Tom Izzo just knows how to coach in the tournament. He doesn't have as much talent as he's had in the past, but he knows how to coach in the tournament. Boogie Ellis is good. I don't think they're good enough. I got Michigan State moving on. In this one, I think Tom Izzo just outclasses the USC. I love the coach over there at USC. A young coach. He came over from the team in Florida. I forget the team name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. He's just done a good job of recruiting, but I just think he gets completely outclassed. And I think Michigan State just comes with a game plan that UFC just can't match. Marquette, Vermont. Again, Vermont's been one of those feisty teams that have been able to find ways to get upsets in the tournament, like over the last 20 years. Don't see them doing that against this Marquette team. This Marquette team is well balanced. The one thing Shaka Smart's always going to make sure his teams do is Florida Gulf Coast, that's the team. The one thing Shaka Smart's going to do is Shaka Smart is going to make sure that his teams defend at a high level. I got to go with Shaka Smart in this one. I'm trusting the coaching right there. I trust that he would get it done. I don't see Vermont coming close to touching Marquette. And then, obviously, I know the big man on the team. Also, I trained with this guy for about 2 years, man. I tried to help him work on his outside game. He's still struggling at the free throw line, but he's still great defensively, man. I like what they're doing down there. We're going to move on to the West. Kansas, unfortunately, man, Howard representing HBCU. Howard's about to get obliterated. These HBCU schools, man, they got to find a way to get a coach in there to do what Deion Sanders did for Jackson State, because no HBCUs even stand a chance. These HBCU teams should have players, and Howard's a good team this year. But these HBCUs be coming in just getting completely obliterated by power conference teams. Kirk Roy says West bracket is TV matchups. Yeah, they might be, but we in the West bracket right now. Arkansas, Illinois. Illinois is going to be tough. But it's going to be tough for Illinois. Illinois is another one of those undercover Big Ten teams that look good in the Big Ten, but don't do good outside the Big Ten. Like I said, I'm not going to overthink these. I'm not going to start digging in it too much, because if I start looking at the metrics, some of the metrics might help make me lean towards Illinois. Arkansas is just a better team. Don't believe Illinois beats Arkansas. Now, we got VCU and St. Mary's. St. Mary's, very good team. Solid coaching. But VCU they have some dogs over there. I think this is where we see a 5 seed. I think this is the 1-5-12 matchup where we see the 12 smack the 5. I don't think VCU just wins this game. I think VCU can dominate St. Mary's. Now, St. Mary's they've played Gonzaga pretty close a couple of times. I mean, you know, they've been much better over the last few years. You said great freshman guard at St. Mary's, yeah. But I just, and the crazy thing about St. Mary's is St. Mary's actually might be underseeded. But I gotta go with the 5. I gotta go with the 12 in this one. So I don't have a 12 winning yet. I told you I think this is the year where the 5s dominate the 12s. I think VCU gets past St. Mary's. We got UConn, Iona. All right. He says, Toot Robinson says, you haven't watched enough. Yes, I have. What you mean I haven't watched enough? You mad because I'm picking these upsets? If you're telling me I haven't watched enough college basketball this year, then your bracket should be perfect. But I'm not taking St. Mary's over VCU. I like VCU's style of play better. I think they're a more physical team. I think they're better defensively. I'm going with VCU. UConn, Iona. UConn started the year off playing great. And then they kind of evened out and leveled out. They do have a really good big down there in the post. But similar to the Michigan State USC series, they got to go up against Rick Pitino. And he coaches really well in the tournament, and he has his teams ready to go. I'm going with the 13 seed. That means I got 2 13 seeds winning. I got IU going down, and I got UConn going down to Iona. I got to go with Rick Pitino in the upset right here. And if you watch what he's been doing at Iona the last couple of years, then you would know why we're going with Iona. We got Fallon Iverson. He says the best black players should attend HBCUs first, but here's the problem, Fallon Iverson. I don't know if you've been here, but I got a buddy. His name is Eric Peck. He played at Cornell. He was up to transfer. And so his decision to transfer, a couple of HBCUs reached out to him. He went on college visits. And so when he went down to these college visits, I think he went to Grambling and he went to Jackson State. You know what he saw? He saw pathetic facilities. They didn't even give their players team gear. Normally, when they invite recruits out, they give them like a recruiting package, team gear, things of that nature to influence them to come there. They didn't have no package there. The only thing that Grambling did when he went down there, they didn't offer him nothing. They had horrible facilities. They were sharing. They had a weight room that was shared with the students. So the athletics team didn't even have their own weight room. And they basically offered him $5,000 cash. He turned it down. He ended up transferring to Purdue. And he played his last year at Purdue as a grad transfer. These HBCUs don't invest enough in their programs, but they expect these players to want to come there just because they're HBCUs. That's the problem. They're trying to go off their name and notoriety, and they're forgetting that you have to sell yourself to these players. And the only thing that these other schools are doing is they're selling themselves better. They're presenting themselves better. They're showcasing better coaching. They're showcasing better NBA potential. So if you have the potential to go to the league, these coaches are showcasing, look, I've been able to get this many players to the league. HBCUs can't say that. Why? There's absolutely no reason why a 5-star recruit would go to a HBCU at this point in time. The only thing they've done, even when they've gotten the 5-star guys, is they've lowered their draft stock. Not going to be worth it. Unless one school is able to get a high-powered coach, and that high-powered coach can bring in 5 or 6 high-level 5-star guys, and then they could just go out and compete, dominate their conference, and then make a run in the tournament, make it look good. Other than that, it's a wrap. It's not worth it to go to HBCU. Not worth it. All right, we got TCU, either versus ASU or Nevada. Tricky game right here. I got ASU beating Nevada. If ASU plays TCU in the first round, TCU is going home. TCU is a really good school, but ASU has been battle tested. Right? They played a lot of tough games this year. I believe ASU beats Nevada, and I believe ASU beats TCU. I got ASU beating TCU in this one right here. Now, you said Howard has 2 Ivy transfers. Probably so. Howard's a really good school. Howard's good. I picked them on my parlay to win the conference tournament, and they won. I got Gonzaga versus Grand Canyon University. We got Gonzaga versus Grand Canyon University. Now, I will pick Gonzaga because I'm not an idiot. But I will not be surprised if Grand Canyon beats Gonzaga. Gonzaga's having a down year. I think they only won their conference tournament because they just have more talent than everybody. It wasn't necessarily because they're playing better or peaking at the right time. They have one player that's potentially NBA caliber that I can think of, and they may have more that I'm just not aware of. But if Drew Timme doesn't play great, and if GCU continues to shoot the ball the way they have, with the diversity of scoring, Ray Harrison, Noah Bauman, Kobe Knox, if they, with Big Gabe down there in the post, this is a game where Gonzaga can go home early. And I wouldn't be surprised. Now, do I expect Gonzaga to come out and play bad? Because Gonzaga has a ton of offense. As you see right here, they're 4-4 versus the top 25. Number 8 BPI ranking. They average 87 points per game. Most of that's due to bad competition. Have a pretty good record of 28-5. They beat Alabama. They did lose to Purdue. They lost to Texas. So the really good teams they got blown out by. They lost to Baylor. They beat St. Mary's twice. They smacked Kentucky, which is a team that's not very disciplined, and they beat Xavier. All right, now GCU's most notable wins is Sam Houston State, Utah Valley. They lost to Nevada. But again, GCU's peaking at the right time. So if you've been following GCU this year, they started off the year. They lost their starting point guard to an ACL injury. But they're peaking at the right time. I won't be surprised if GCU, and I'm going to be rooting hard for GCU. Obviously, you guys know. I'm definitely going to be live when that game is playing. Probably going to be doing a live stream just for that game. But Ray Harrison is an NBA prospect if you haven't watched GCU play. At worst, he's going to be in the G League. They got Kobe Knox, who's one of the best defenders as a redshirt freshman. That's Kevin Knox's little brother of the NBA. Gabe McLaughlin is one of the best forwards in the West Coast, just underrated. But he's in GCU, y'all, is one of the oldest teams in NCAA basketball. They have one of teams laden with the most NCAA experience. Right? Noah Bauman's been on 4 different NCAA teams for USC, San Jose, LSU, and now the GCU. Yeah, Gonzaga definitely has a tough draw. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. And you know what? I may come back and revisit this as I think about it a little bit more. But Grand Canyon is peaking at the right time. Hitman X says GCU is going to enjoy a brief trip. They're not going to New York, though. See, that's how I know. That's how I know you all wrong. Hitman X is just all discombobulated. They playing in Denver. See, you don't even know where they playing. So, like, we have the advantage. Now Gonzaga, they probably know how to play in that elevation, but we're going to send our guys up early to adjust to the elevation. So I'm not worried about it. And you know what? Look, y'all. Nah, I ain't gonna switch it just because of Hitman. See, I can't get in my feelings. I'm not gonna switch this just because Hitman in there talking crazy. Let me just move on to Northwestern, Boise State. Do I like Northwestern? No. I don't trust Northwestern, y'all. I don't know why I don't trust them. Right? They had a good win against Purdue. But then from that point forward, they really proceeded to lose every big game that was ahead of them. Right? Don't know much about Boise State. Nah, Hitman X, you ain't really pulling for us. I don't know much about Boise State, but they're 1-1 versus the top 25. They got a 47th ranked BPI, 13-5 in conference. They average a ton of points per game. All of the game predictors are favoring Northwestern on this one, but I like Boise State with a 24-9 record. That tells me you're dealing with a winning team. Boise State's beaten San Diego State. They've beaten Utah State. They beat Nevada, and they beat New Mexico. Now, Northwestern, they beat Purdue. They beat IU. They beat Illinois. They beat Michigan State. They beat Iowa. And they beat Rutgers. Is that enough to compel me? When I watched Northwestern play, they have the 1-point guard that can score really well. But outside of that, I didn't really see anything that wowed me. I got the 10 seed winning this one. I'm going to go with Boise State beat Northwestern. That'll be the third Big 10 team falling early. I gotta go with Boise State. I just don't trust Northwestern. All right, so we got UCLA and UNC Asheville. Not gonna really waste. And salute to Action Jackson. I see you in there. Appreciate you pulling up. We got UCLA versus UNC Asheville. Not even gonna waste too much time. I'm gonna go with UCLA on that one. So we got our next round. We got our round of 32 teams that are advancing to the Sweet 16. Now we really get into the nitty gritty because we narrowing these numbers down. We narrowing them down. We weeding teams out. And now from this point forward, it's going to be all about matchups, right? Now teams have gotten the jitters out. Now they have one game under their belt. Now they've shaken off the rust. Go Balance says Kansas Jayhawks back-to-back. They better hope they get Bill Self back coaching. Because whoever that assistant was didn't know what the hell he was doing. He didn't know what the hell he was doing when he took over. They should not have lost the game that they lost. But let's get here. Alabama, West Virginia. I like West Virginia. Don't think they have the talent to match Alabama. Alabama, talent-wise, they probably have the best player in the country. All right. We got San Diego State, Virginia. San Diego State, Virginia. And this one right here, I don't know. I don't, like I've been saying before, I don't trust Virginia. But they have coaching. That's the one thing they do have. They do have coaching. I don't know how we value that. With Tony Bennett in that Virginia squad, but that Virginia team just doesn't look the same. And make sure y'all click that link, join the FYF Sports Bracket Challenge. Hold on, I messed the link up right there. I want to fix that because when y'all click that, I want to make sure it takes y'all there. All right, there we go right there. I don't know why it's doing that. As long as it takes you there, that's all that matters. It takes you there. All right, so we got the FYF Sports Bracket Challenge. Make sure y'all join that bracket challenge. All right, it's $2 per bracket. Winner take all tournament, man. So enter as many brackets as you want. 4 brackets, 5 brackets, winner take all. Hopefully we can get about 100 people, especially once I share it to the Discord and once into my Twitch group on Twitch. We should have a ton of people in there, so it should be a ton of competition. So it's going to be interesting to see how these brackets pan out. Who has the best And then who's right there at the end? Who was right? So bragging rights is on this stake as well. But San Diego State, Virginia, this Virginia team, I don't trust them, but they're going up against a San Diego State team that just hasn't played a ton of competition all year. I think West Virginia, even though they haven't been playing the best basketball, I think once they get their legs under them, they get a little bit of rhythm against Furman, I think they can coast and cruise past San Diego State. So I got Virginia beating San Diego State, moving on to the Sweet 16. NC State, Baylor. This is a trap game for Baylor. This is a trap game for Baylor. We've seen Baylor fold in big games against teams. And remember what I said, NC State has a really tough backcourt. Go Balance says, when was the last time a team in last year's NC game didn't make the tournament? I don't get your question. You got to rephrase that so I understand what you're talking about. You said NC is a Cinderella team. I believe so, Gabe Marriott. I believe so. Something's telling me, just based on what I've seen from NC State this year, that they can beat Baylor. And I'm Baylor, I'm getting the same vibes as I'm getting from other teams where I think, like Gonzaga, I think their seeding is more so predicated on their name and reputation and not based on what they've done this year. They very well may be a good team. And this is probably me not watching enough Baylor basketball, but I got to go with the upset here. The 11 seed beats the 3. NC State moves on to the Sweet 16. I just think that backcourt is better than what people are giving credit for. And we got Missouri versus Arizona. Missouri's beat a ton of good teams. Arizona has lost a ton of games that they should have won. When I watched Arizona lose to Washington at home, I think it was Washington. Not just lose to Washington at home. They got blown out by Washington at home. When I watched them lose that game in the fashion that they did, I can't trust them in big games. They're big. That big guy that they have down low, he looks imposing, but he's not very good. He's not even that physically. He's not that physical of a big. And then their guard, Krisha Kerr, whoever his name is, he's kind of overrated. I gotta go with Missouri with the upset over Arizona. I just don't trust Arizona this year. I don't like him. I don't like how they play. And I think they've kind of been able to coast in a weaker conference. Go Balance says North Carolina was in last year's NC national championship game, and it says this year they missed the tournament complete. Yeah, I don't know when was the last time that happened. Yeah, but you know what? North Carolina did it to themselves. And North Carolina is similar to Kentucky. They're walking into gyms thinking that they're going to beat teams because they have the better recruits, and they're not really actually going in there playing. Right? They're trying to win with that fear factor that, oh, we're North Carolina. We usually beat teams by 20. We usually come and beat these inferior teams. And so they were walking in with that mindset, and they weren't actually going and winning games. And this is why they didn't look very competitive when they played this year. Let's go to the other side of this bracket in the Midwest. Houston, Auburn. Man, I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Auburn. But the one thing about Houston showed me this last year, is they know how to win these games. And they do have the superior coaching. I'm not even going to overthink this one. Houston moves on past Auburn. I think they just outclassed them from players to coaching. This is probably one of the most underrated one seeds ever, because I think a lot of people are going to disrespect Houston in the brackets. But we see where they got us last year. Oh, we got Miami, Kent State. Miami versus Kent State. Kent State. Can Kent State pull off the upset and get to the Sweet 16? Is this Kent State's year to get there versus Miami? I don't know. I think Miami's had a really, really favorable draw against Drake. They're going to run up against a tough Kent State team that's won a lot of games. I'm going to go with the upset here, 13 seed, beating Miami. I'm not going to play these numbers. I'm just going to play the common sense of it. Experience, the winning, the record, the consistency. I got to go with Kent State right here. Kirk Royce says, not a fan of Arizona. If my Ducks were healthy, better talent. Yeah. Hey, I watched Arizona play. And like I said, all I needed to see was that one game when they were at home I think they were ranked number 2 in the country at the time. So you're playing at home in Arizona, in Tucson, ranked, and you're playing one of the worst teams in your conference, and you allow them to walk in and completely dominate you. Kirk Roy says, hopefully Bronny James come to Oregon. I don't know where he's going to go, but whatever school gets him is going. It's like hitting a lottery. They're going to cash in. We're going to bring a lot of money into that program. Xavier versus Iowa State. I love Xavier. I think they've had a great run. I think Iowa State's just peaked right now. I think Iowa State's just are also the superior team. So we're going to go with Iowa State right now. Huh? Okay. All right. So we got Iowa State beating Xavier. We'll get them to move on. Penn State, Texas. Penn State and Texas. This is where I think Penn State's run comes to an end. If it was any other number 2 seed, I would actually consider Penn State beating them. But I think Penn State getting to the second round of the NCAA tournament is probably the most. I think this exceeds expectations for this Penn State team. But I think they're running up against one of the best teams in the country, the most versatile teams in the country. They're going to get outclassed, but it's not going to be because of coaching or the players don't want it. I just think they're running into a juggernaut. And they're just not going to have the talent to match. I got to go with Texas in this one right here. So that rounds out this right here. We got Alabama, Virginia, NC State, Missouri, Iowa State, Texas, Houston, and Kent State. Let's go down to the second half, see where our Sweet 16 pans out to be. We got Purdue versus Memphis, y'all. I want to ask y'all in the chat, and I need to see more. I need to see y'all in the chat. Y'all got to let me know what y'all think about this one right here. Purdue, Memphis is going to be tricky. This is a tricky one right here because of my connections and ties to Purdue University. It makes me want to go with Purdue, but we've seen how Purdue folds in these games. Last year, they had a opportune. I'm talking about the opportunity was right in front of them. All you got to do is beat St. Peter's and they choke. T Street says, Lamont, Houston's best player is hurt. I don't care. That's the thing. I'm not going to play around with Houston. They're too good in the tournament for me their coaching superior. Their players generally pan out to be great. I just think they're just a well-coached group team. And they just know, I think the coach that they have, he just understands how to coach and win games in the NCAA tournament. It's not going to be necessarily about players. So I got to go with Houston. I'm not going to play with Houston this year. I looked over them last year and they completely blew up my bracket. I'm not doing it again, especially when they show me that they're just as good. Another 31 season for them. Purdue. We got Purdue versus Memphis. Now, Purdue's 3-2 versus the top 25, which is surprising. You would think that they've played more top 25 games, especially being in the Big Ten and especially with the non-conference schedule that they have. Memphis is 2-3 versus the top 25. So really don't put too much weight there. It's close to even. BPI 7th in the country. Memphis 31st, 15-5 in conference, 13-5. So pretty equal right there. Memphis does score the ball at a higher clip, 79, but Purdue, you probably want to give them the edge on the defensive side of the ball. So Purdue's notable wins: beat Gonzaga, beat Marquette, beat Duke, beat West Virginia, beat Michigan State twice, and they beat Maryland. I'm talking about strength of schedule right there. That's pretty nasty right there. Right. And they didn't just beat Gonzaga, they blew Gonzaga out. They didn't just beat Duke, they blew Duke out. They didn't just beat West Virginia, they blew West Virginia out. Now, I think this was early on in the season when a lot of teams really hadn't scouted out Zach Edey and nobody predicted that he would be this dominant. And now teams have caught on to him and they've kind of have a formula for how to defend that team. It's going to be a tough task for Memphis right there. But I believe that Purdue gets it done. I believe Purdue gets it done. I believe Purdue moves past Memphis and go ahead and gets to the Sweet 16. Will it be easy? No. It will not be easy at all. But I think this is the year Purdue can get to the Final Four. They got arguably the best player in the country. They have a tandem of freshman guards that can shoot the life out of the ball. They have vets on that team. And then what I like is their versatility at the power forward spot, because they have a combination of 3 power forwards that all bring a different element. You got Caleb Faust, who brings grit, a lot of rebounding, finishing at the rim. Right? You got another big and Mason Gillis can extend you out to the 3-point line and make threes. And then you got the freshman who can come in and do a little bit of both. Man, come on. I think they got good balance this year. So I think they got what it takes to get past Memphis. We got Duke, Tennessee. Duke, Tennessee. Again, I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm not gonna overthink this one, because if I start looking into the stats and the numbers, I'm probably gonna find a way to convince myself that Tennessee might be able to win this one, even though Duke is peaking right now. I got to go straight with Duke. Purdue versus Duke. They're gonna get that rematch. Purdue handed them a almost 20-point loss early in the year. Now Duke can get their vengeance in the Sweet 16. Providence versus Kansas State. Providence is a really good team. Kansas State's a really good team. Kansas State 7-5 versus the top 25. That's a lot of games against high-powered teams. BPI though, Providence 39, Kansas State 29th. Both of them did decent in conference. We look at those notable wins. Providence beat UConn, Marquette, Creighton. They lost to Xavier twice. They lost to TCU and Miami. Kansas, as far as Kansas State, they beat Kansas. They beat Texas. They beat Baylor twice. They beat TCU. They beat Iowa State. They beat West Virginia. They beat Nevada. They beat Oklahoma State, man. When you look at the teams that they beat, man, they more battle-tested, right? They are a bit more battle-tested. I got to try not to overthink these picks, and I think that's where people go wrong in their brackets. I just got to see what's there. The more battle-tested team, the team that looks like they primed, the team that's peaking a little bit better, got to go with Kansas State moving on to the Sweet 16. Marquette, Michigan State. Man, this is tough right here. Because, and you know why? You know what makes it so tough? It's just hard to pick against Tom Izzo in the tournament. Like, he just has a history. And even more so, Tom Izzo has a history of having a ton of success in the NCAA tournament. He says, you keep mispronouncing the school name. Ain't Duke, it's Puke. All right. Well, that was kind of cringy, man. I thought, come on. You got to come with something better than that, Go Balance. Come on, man. That was kind of cringy. Come with a better one, man. Sorry to kind of rain on your parade, man. I know you was trying to get a good joke in. But, man, you could have came stronger than that one with the Duke roast. Jason Brown says Kansas State winning it all. I don't have Kansas State winning it all, but we talk about this Michigan State Marquette matchup. I don't want to do a deep dive into the numbers too much. And salute to Donovan McCrabb in the chat, man. I see a lot of names. Go Balance 609 AJ. I see a lot of new names in the chat. Make sure y'all subscribe, hit the like button, and then also make sure if you haven't done so already, get your brackets in for the FYF Sports Bracket Challenge, man. It's in the chat right now. It's $2 a bracket, right? All you got to do to pay for your brackets is put your $2 in the Cash App. The Cash App's on the screen, $ FYF Sports. If you want to do 10 brackets, all right, that's $20. If you want to do 5, that's $10. Give yourself the best opportunity to win. I project that we're going to have between 100 and 150 people in there, man. It's going to be a decent-sized little pot, right? So let's go ahead and get your brackets turned in, right? Get your brackets submitted. Make your bracket name synonymous with your Cash App name. That way it's easy for me to tell which brackets are paid for and which ones aren't. Because if your bracket isn't paid for, then it won't be in consideration to win it all. How long has this show been on? Well, it should be right there on the screen, Josh Breezy. We've been on for about an hour, man. We got to get through these brackets, man. We are destined to be the first person ever to have a perfect bracket. I don't know if it's been done. I know a lot of people have said they have had a perfect bracket, but we're the first ones doing it live. And this is going to be the first bracket ever that's been done live. That's been perfect. And that's because we're not diving too deep into these matchups. I'm not overthinking this stuff. I'm just going with what works. Every time I overthink it, I always revisit and be like, man, I should have went with my first thought. I knew that was going to happen. And then my bracket's all screwed up, which this bracket very well may be screwed up. So when we look at Michigan State Marquette, I love Shaka Smart. I love how Marquette's playing. They're going up against Tom Izzo. And that guard at Michigan State is a gamer. That guard on the Michigan State team is a gamer, y'all. Can Michigan State upset Marquette, the number 2 seed, is the big question. Donovan McCrabb says nada. He says in the first 49, he said first 49 picks correct out of 63 overall is the record. It's not impossible, y'all. It's not impossible. We about to literally do it here on FYF Sports, man. We're about to do it right here on FYF Sports, man. But now I'm trying to figure out Shaka Smart or Tom Izzo. Shaka Smart or Tom Izzo. I gotta go with the talent. Marquette has the coaching and talent to beat Michigan State. Michigan State, they have the superior coaching. They have elite coaching. They don't have the elite players this year. And their team seems a bit disconnected from Tom Izzo. So the problem with Tom Izzo's style of coaching, y'all, as good of a coach he is, I think his style of coaching is starting to get phased out. And so what I'm starting to see over the last couple of years is his players are tuning him out. Because that Bobby Knight style, that aggressive style, that yell at your player style of coaching isn't as effective as it used to be. And I saw that in a recent game with Michigan State where Tom Izzo is still getting on his players really tough. He's coaching them really hard. And it's almost like he's losing his players. And so it looks like his teams and his players are playing not to make mistakes as opposed to going out there playing hard to win. They're just playing to not make mistakes to keep the coach happy. And so as good of a coach as Tom Izzo is, I think it's going to fail him here in the second round versus Marquette. I think Shaka Smart has a defense. I think he has the talent to beat this Michigan State team. We move to the other side, Kansas, Arkansas. Kansas, Arkansas, I believe Bill Self comes back. If Bill Self comes back, I don't see Kansas having any trouble with Arkansas, even though I think Arkansas can make this game a lot closer than many of us would want it to be. But I got Kansas moving on. I got VCU, Iona. VCU, Iona, a lot of you guys, we had VCU with the upset over St. Mary's in the first round. We had Iona with the upset over UConn in the first round. So we got a second round matchup of a 12 and a 13 seed. Rick Pitino's going to get the job done, y'all. Rick Pitino's going to get the job done. I believe Iona, superior coaching, superior players, I believe they move on to play Kansas in the Sweet 16, which Kansas will be on upset alert in that matchup right there. Remember, we got ASU. So I believe ASU is going to beat TCU. I believe they're going to win that play-in game over Nevada. I got ASU versus Gonzaga. ASU versus Gonzaga. I believe Gonzaga beats ASU in this one right here. Luck of the draw. All right. The only way ASU moves on possibly is if Grand Canyon finds a way to get the upset. But then even if Grand Canyon finds a way to get the upset past Gonzaga, I believe Grand Canyon can beat ASU, the in-town rival. They always play them close. Is Bobby Hurley a good coach? Bobby Hurley is a good coach. But the problem with Bobby Hurley is similar to Tom Izzo. His style of coaching wears on the players. So what you see from what you've seen over the last couple of years from these ASU teams is you see these teams start the season off really good. Right? There was, I think a few years ago, they started off so good that they got up to number 1 in the country. But his style of coaching is so aggressive, it's so brash, it wears on players over the course of a full season that towards the end of the year, it looks like he loses his guys. There's a disconnect. And then they end up losing games that they should have won. So I think that's Bobby Hurley's pitfall. He has that old school mentality of coaching where he loses his guys too much when he should probably try to adjust and have the Mark Few approach at Gonzaga. But I got Gonzaga winning this one right here over ASU. ASU kind of disappointed me this year. They've had some tough losses. I remember this year they took a blowout loss when they got ranked to San Francisco. So I got Gonzaga winning this one right here. We got Boise State. I picked Boise State to upset Northwestern in that first round. They're playing UCLA. Tiger Campbell played prep school ball in Indiana, man. I know his game very well. I think UCLA peaking at the right time. I got UCLA moving on to play Gonzaga in the Sweet 16. And, man, these matchups are starting to formulate and form. We going into the Sweet 16. And as we go into the Sweet 16, make sure you guys hit the link, join our bracket challenge, man. At the end of the stream, I want to see a ton of brackets in there, especially once I share it into the Discord. I know it's going to be a lot of brackets in there. But let's go ahead and get our brackets in. How's the wrist, Jared? Jared Thomas says, how's the wrist? The wrist is, it is what it is. All right. I still got this metal bracket. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I got a metal bracket going through my thumb right now, holding the bones together. It's getting better, man. Well, we'll survive. Haven't been able to shoot a basketball. I'm left-handed, so I'm probably not going to be able to shoot a basketball probably for another 2-3 months. So hopefully my jumper's still there. So I'm probably going to be shooting like Goat Mike when it's all said and done. Hopefully my jumper don't go into the garbage can. We got Sweet 16 matchup, Alabama versus Virginia. This is where Virginia's trip ends. Virginia's been solid. They've been a good team. Tony Bennett's a good coach. I think this is about the max that this team can go. A lot of people have Virginia losing in the first or second round. I believe they can get to the Sweet 16, but their trip ends against Alabama. He says, are you good at recruiting? I mean, at the level that I coach, yes. I coach at the club level. We're talking about college guys. So that's like the NAIA, JUCO level college players, maybe D2 level, sometimes D1 guys. I know my best player, my point guard for the club team, he got moved up to the D1 team. Hitman X said no excuses when. So look, y'all. So Hitman X gonna wait till I'm injured. Metal bracket on my shooting hand and all. Oh, and that's when you want to play me. All right. Look, I tried to shoot the other day, man. And couldn't do it, man. He says you never had a jump, man. Yeah, all right. Y'all say that. Come on, man. Y'all say that. Hey, man, like the thing is, I can bring to my old coaches and people I play with and against on here. They'll tell you. Come on. That thing was lethal, bro. Couple 40-point games in my bag, all that. Play style when healthy. If I'm being honest, when I'm healthy, a lot of people told me Michael Redd. That's no joke. I'm not gassing it. I'm not putting no extra sauce on it. But when healthy, a lot of people told me Michael Redd. I think one of my strengths is I had extremely quick release on my shot. I can shoot the ball from anywhere. Quick release. And if you put the wrong defender on me, if you put a guy on me that's lazy, I'm going to light him up. I shoot the 3 ball really well out of transition. So I'm not shy to shoot a 3 in transition. I will make him. If you leave me open, I'm not missing. That's just the type of shooter I am. Yeah, I'm a lefty, Donovan, left-hander. I just don't miss very much. That's just everybody tells you this. When I step onto the court, the first thing people say is, who got shooter? Like, I know I can shoot. Everybody knows I can shoot. Right? Now, do I have weaknesses? Yes. Post defense, big weakness. Lateral quickness, one of my weaknesses. I give you that. But shooting the ball, scoring the ball, playmaking, you're gonna have problems there. But antisocial, it's videos out. I told you, I keep telling you, my homie Dustin, he puts all our pro-am games on YouTube. It's like 30 games out. Y'all just don't be looking. I put his channel link in here. I mean, right up until I hurt my hand, we just playing. Come on, y'all. If y'all actually went and found the videos, it's right there. Come on, y'all. This is recent too. That's like the last couple months. How's your defense? Defense is solid. I play angles well. I'm more of a physical defender because I don't have the lateral quickness to stay in front of real shifty guys. So I just try to use physicality sometimes. Right? Because I'm probably going to be a stronger defender. But, it is what it is. You got to play to your strengths. Is a slow defender? I mean, not slow against people like you, Wild Wild West. Like, if you're just a casual hooper, I'm going to dominate you defensively. I'm talking about I'm slow when I'm, like, going up against, like, semi-pro D1 level players. In that context, yeah. But if I'm going up against you guys, no, I'm not slow. If I'm going up against casuals, no, I'm dominating y'all. See, I know the gyms I can walk in and dominate. If I'm playing any one of you guys, Jared, Anti, Wild Wild West, you guys, you casuals, Wild Wild West says I'm a quick guard. Yeah, you say you quick. A lot of I be hearing this. I've only had 2 subscribers actually walk into a gym where I've been at, and they both got cooked. Leroy McConnell, height and weight, 190, 190, 6 foot. Wild Wild West. All right, man. Wow. Wild Wild West. If you think you got it, man, like I said, if anybody, when I heal up especially, I coach at GCU. I have access to our practice gym 24/7. Any day of the week, we can go into the gym and hoop. I don't have to go to LA Fitness. I use GCU's facilities at any time. I will get you in with no problem. That's all we got to do. Just be in Phoenix. If you in Phoenix, I can get you a free hotel at the GCU hotel. Come on, man. But let's get to this pick. See, y'all getting distracted from the bracket, man. You said you're basically describing Sam Cassell on defense, very strong but slower. No, I'm not no Sam Cassell on defense, man. Like I said, I'm not going to act like I'm a Tony Allen, but I can hold my own defensively, y'all. Exactly. Hitman's probably the only one that'll pull up. Hitman will pull up. Say Hitman pulling up is going to be like Alabama playing, the 16 seed. He gonna get smacked, but he gonna pull up though. You got to respect somebody that's gonna pull up. You got to respect that. All right, I'm gonna do him bad on the court. Lamont play D like a black Luka. No, I don't. I told you I D up, y'all. I know how to defend. It's Jay. Yeah, look, y'all. I got a metal bracket going through my thumb right now that's gonna take surgery to remove. I can't do nothing right now. I wish I could zoom in and show you guys. It's like literally, I can't do this. It's my shooting hand. It's wraps. All right, we got next matchup: NC State versus Missouri, y'all. Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Mahari, salute to you, man. I know you played in the Olympics, but you're going to get this work too, man. You know, it gets. I told y'all, like, I know what I do best, y'all. It's going to be hard to, like, to stop me, you got to be good. And I'm not gassing it up, but you got to be good. And I'm probably one of the smartest players you are. Like, I'm not a dumb player. You're not going to get me to do stupid stuff with the basketball. NC State versus Missouri. Can NC State, with the backcourt that they have, keep it going? Can they keep it going? And look, Jason Brown. Look, all the videos y'all saw with Hitman and Elder and Goat Mike and them, that's not what I don't do nothing like that. It's not comparable. Like, real hoopers know. Like, salute to Hitman for actually getting on video, picking up a basketball. But it's levels to this, man. Look, Dex said, I got footage of me shooting in the gym. Yeah, Dex. We don't want that old grainy footage. I don't even know if y'all had breakaway rims back when you got that footage. Y'all might have still had just the metal rims hanging on, just bolted into the backboard. Was you even shooting on breakaway rims, Dex? Y'all crazy. Come on, man. Look, y'all. Look, I know I shoot so well. You know what I do with my team? I basically got free Gatorades, probably for the next year. When I go in the gym with my team, I'll be like, let's 3-point contest for Gatorades. Best out of 20. I think all my players owe me Gatorades, man. Lamont is like, no, I'm not like no Bob McAdoo. I'm gonna just take you beyond the 3-point line. All right, Hitman, all right. All right. Well, Hitman, when I get healthy, just pull up and we'll create some footage. But you're not scoring. You won't score on me, Hitman. You're not good enough. And that's like y'all be just thinking I'm talking, but Hitman, you're just not there yet. It's levels to it, Hitman. You can't work in a factory all day and then walk into the gym and think you're gonna just play me. Hitman, you're just not there yet. I literally live in the gym every day. I literally live in the gym. Like I'm in the gym every day. All right, we got NC State, Missouri. NC State's backcourt. Can that backcourt propel them past a Missouri team that's been able to pile up a ton of really good wins? And they're peaking at the right time. I don't believe so. I believe Missouri can outlast NC State. I think this is where NC State's run ends. Great year, great run. I don't think they have the talent. No, I'm not related to Andrew Lang. I don't think NC State has the talent. I think this is just Missouri's year. I think they have a really good team, a deep team. I think they get it done. I think they get to the Elite Eight. We got Houston and Kent State. Obviously, Kent State, great run, I believe. I just think they have a tailor-made path to the Sweet 16. But when they go up against a team like Houston, I believe it's over with from that point forward. So we just got to go with what works. We know Houston's the best team in the Midwest bracket right now, other than Texas. I mean, we're going to have, if they, this Iowa State-Texas matchup is going to be really, really interesting because Iowa State's peaking at the right time, but also Texas is peaking to a certain degree. Can Iowa State get it done? Iowa State, 9-5 versus the top 25. Texas, 9-6 versus the top 25. Texas has a BPI of 5th in the country. Iowa State, 25th. 9-9 in conference. So when I see that 9-9 in conference record, that tells me there's some chemistry issues there. For a team this good, for a team, 9 of their 19 wins are versus top 25 teams. For a team with 9 of their 19 wins versus top 25 teams, and yet you have a 9-9 conference record, that tells me there could potentially be some chemistry and cohesion issues. And I know they were able to win their conference tournament. But man, so Iowa State, they lost to UConn. They lost to Kansas twice, but they did beat Kansas. They lost to Texas, but they also beat Texas. So they have had experience in beating Texas. Right? They beat Baylor 3 times. So they have a ton of really good wins. So it's like when Iowa State's playing really well, it's hard to beat them. But when they're playing bad, they're an average team. He says AB the Hero played ball at ISU. I don't think AB the Hero. I think AB the Hero played football. I don't think he played basketball. So when I look at this matchup right here, I love what Texas is doing. I love how they've been playing recently. I'm going to go with Texas. I just think they're a better team. Texas will definitely be on upset alert. If Iowa State plays good, Texas will be going home. Iowa State's beaten this team before, but I think the familiarity with the teams favors Texas in this one right here. So we have Houston, Texas, Alabama, Missouri moving on. We'll pick those later. Let's move down to the bottom half. We got Purdue versus Duke. I like Duke, but the things that Duke does best, Purdue does a good job of countering defensively. And Duke still doesn't have an answer for Zach Edey. And I think that was the biggest issue when they first played. I'm not going to overthink this right here. I got Purdue beating Duke. As good as Duke has been, they've turned it up defensively. There's just no answer for Zach Edey. And it is, even though they're much improved defensively, they lost by 18 the first time. I don't see much changing the second time around. Matt Painter's a really good coach. I think he's going to make a few adjustments because I think Duke is going to try some different things. Duke's probably going to try to press. They're probably going to try to pick up full court. But with the JUCO transfer, or not the JUCO, with the senior transfer guard that they now can bring in, I think that's going to be the difference right there. I think they have the guard play to counter what Duke does defensively, and then they have Zach Edey. Kansas State versus Marquette. Kansas State Marquette is going to be interesting. Something's telling me that just Kansas State is just extremely battle tested. Marquette is good. Shaka Smart is good defensively, but Kansas being so battle tested, and obviously they're probably going to coast. They're going to have a tough matchup against Providence, but they're probably going to coast into the Sweet 16. Something's telling me that Kansas State is going to beat Marquette. I don't know what it is. Don't necessarily know what it is. Marquette's had a great year. They got Shaka Smart. They got the coaching. But Kansas State, man, with them being so battle tested, I got Kansas State beating Marquette, moving on to the Elite Eight against Purdue. We got Kansas Iona. Kansas Iona is a tricky match. I believe Kansas wins this one, but it's going to be close. And I think this is Rick Pitino's last game with the Iona Gales. I believe he moves on to St. John's. His name has been thrown in the mix over there, but I think this is Rick Pitino's last game. I just think don't think his team, especially if Bill Self is going to be back coaching, just don't think they're going to have enough talent to compete with the Kansas Jayhawks. I believe that Rick Pitino ends his career with Iona, moves on to St. John's at the end of this year, or potentially Georgetown. Let's not forget Georgetown, because Patrick Ewing got fired, as I predicted. Horrible job in Georgetown. I believe Pitino moves on to bigger and brighter pastures. So I got Kansas winning that one. Gonzaga UCLA is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game, but this is just UCLA's year. It's just UCLA's year. And Gonzaga, a team that's usually formidable, don't know if they have enough talent to compete with UCLA going down the stretch. They got Drew Timme, but UCLA does have guard play, the advantage in the guard play. And I got to give it. So when we look at the metrics, UCLA's 3-4 versus top 25. Gonzaga's 4-4 versus top 25. But I would assume some of those wins are against St. Mary's. So are those really true top 25 wins? BPI, Gonzaga's 8th, UCLA 4th, 18-2 in conference. In a much tougher conference, Gonzaga 14-2 in conference. Gonzaga really scores the ball well with that continuity offense, 87 points per game. That's ridiculous at the college level. But man. So when we look at these wins, again, really good wins for Gonzaga. They beat Alabama, which is tough. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Texas. They lost to Baylor. They did beat St. Mary's, Kentucky, and Xavier. So the quality of their good wins aren't as quality as you think. On the flip side of that, UCLA's beating Arizona, which is a good win. They beat Maryland. They beat Kentucky. And they beat Oregon twice. So I definitely got to get that one at UCLA. It's going to be a much closer game. Wouldn't be surprised if Gonzaga moves on, but we got to pick one. I got to go with UCLA. So we'll move back up. Let's get to our Elite Eight. So now we're getting down to our Final Four. Salute to Nicholas Brown in there as well. Facts. Let's get this over 200 plus likes. Facts, y'all. Because I'm giving y'all the perfect bracket. It's being done right in y'all face. For the few people here that's literally watching history unfold, man, y'all watching history unfold right in front of your eyes. This is the perfect bracket. Alabama, Missouri. Alabama just playing like nothing's going to phase them this year. They had the incident with their star player. That didn't phase them. I thought that incident with their star player would rattle them. The only thing that did was motivate them to be even better. As good as Missouri's been, don't think they have enough to beat this Alabama team. Their star player, stars win in the NCAA tournament, and the best player is going to shine. I haven't seen anybody that's been able to contain them. I don't think Missouri can do it. I got Alabama winning that one. We got Houston versus Texas. Houston versus Texas is going to be tricky. Now, we just watched Houston lose. We watched them lose to Memphis in the conference championship. And then we saw Texas as well. We saw them make their run as well. But it's hard for me to keep going against Houston. It's hard for me to keep going against Houston because every time I pick against Houston, every time I pick against them, they show me otherwise. I'm going with the superior coaching in this one. I'm picking Houston to defeat Texas in this one. I mean, I know a lot of people and a lot of the metrics might say otherwise, but I'm just tired of going against this team when they have been consistently showing me that they got what it takes to get done. So we got Alabama and Houston both in the Final Four. Let's see how the other side pans out. The other side pans out. We got Purdue. We got Kansas State. We got Kansas and UCLA. We got the 1 and the 2. We got Purdue, Kansas State at the 3. How does this pan out right here? Kansas State, battle-tested team, Elite 8. Can Purdue get to the Final Four? They came close with Carson Edwards. They came very close with Carson Edwards. Can they get past this Kansas State team? I believe Purdue can get past Kansas State. I just believe I always believe the team with the superior talent or the superior individual talent wins these games. And Zach Edey, this is a game where Zach Edey can single-handedly carry you. You're talking about a guy who just puts up 20 and 15 like it's nothing. I think Zach Edey carries the Boilermakers into their first Final Four in years. And then we got Kansas and UCLA. UCLA's been a very tricky team to judge. Kansas, who won the championship last year, that would be the easy pick. But when we talk about teams peaking at the right time and the other teams dealing with internal issues and strife, and it says, don't you got connections to Purdue? Yeah. I used to coach Purdue University's club team. We won a national championship in 2017. But it says Kansas and UCLA. Common sense would tell me to take Kansas. But there's absolutely no way all 4 number 1 seeds make it. I'm going with UCLA. I got Houston. In my Final Four, I got Alabama, Purdue. I got Houston, UCLA. This is where it gets easy for me. Alabama's going to beat Purdue, y'all. Too much talent on the perimeter, too much speed. They have the defenders necessary to completely blow Purdue up in the half court on the offensive side. I think they'll speed them up. They have tough shot makers. They have the best player. I got to take out Alabama. I think this is where Purdue's trip ends. I mean, Matt Painter, he's done an exceptionally great job with this team full of 2- and 3-star players. And Matt Painter said, I don't recruit where they're ranked. I just recruit talent. And he's brought in a ton of guys that have played above and beyond expectation. And Zach Edey, I'm almost for certain Painter is going to advise him to go to the NBA. Don't miss out on the money. Don't lose out on any value that you might have monetarily wise. So I think Zach Edey's career at Purdue University ends after their loss to Alabama right here. Alabama moves on to the national championship game. And we got Houston and UCLA. This is where I think Houston gets outclassed. I think UCLA can make it back to the national championship game here against Alabama. He says, your Final Four is similar to mine, except I got K-State over Purdue. Yeah. And, like I said, this year it's going to be about matchups. It's going to be about matchups. So we got Alabama versus UCLA. I don't think it's close. I don't think this is close. Alabama has the best player. They're playing some of the best basketball. They're most consistent. They have the most diversified attack. From what I've seen, they probably have the best player in college basketball. I got to go with Alabama winning this one. I have Alabama winning the national championship. My Final Four consisted Alabama, Purdue, Houston, UCLA. Ton of great matchups, a ton of upsets, and I'll highlight those upsets. In my tiebreaker score, I have Alabama winning this game 71-59. I think UCLA finds a way to keep it close. I think UCLA pulls away late in the second half with their star power. And they pull away for a national championship win, 71-59. Y'all see who I got winning right there. That is the perfect bracket, you guys. And I'm telling you guys right now, you need to copy these picks. If you want to also be a part of having the perfect bracket, you're going to want to mirror these picks. Otherwise, you're just going to be missing out. But I got Alabama winning it all this year. And I think it's extremely hard to pick against them. I don't see how you pick against this Alabama team. The path that they have to the championship is kind of paved, it's kind of designed for them to get there. And then once they get there, then it's just going to be about who has the most star power. He says UCLA Defensive Player of the Year candidate is out for the tourney. That's tough to overcome. It is. But, one trend that I've noticed in the NCAA tournament is that these injuries aren't as significant as what we think they are. Like you would think, for example, a team like GCU, their best player, their point guard, their leader, their facilitator went down with an ACL tear. GCU then proceeds to play the best basketball that they played all year. As a 5 seed, they win the WAC conference. They get to the NCAA tournament. In college basketball, unlike the NBA, it seems like college basketball, it seems like teams get more motivated when injuries happen. They get more locked in. They play together, right? And so that's what I got to go with right there. Alabama is the national championship. You guys, man, the link is going to be in the chat one more time. Let me, it's time for you to drop your brackets. Y'all see my bracket? Now it's time for me to see y'all's. All right. Join the FYF Sports bracket challenge. Link is in the chat. Or actually, I'm going to be making another community post. I'm just going to make a community post. So look, if you guys are new, make sure you subscribe. I'm going to be dropping a community post with the link to the bracket challenge for FYF Sports, $2 a bracket. Go ahead and hop in there. Get your entries in. Unlimited entries. If you want to do 10 brackets, that's fine. If you want to do 5, that's fine. As many brackets as you want or whatever the limit ESPN has. And we'll just see how it shakes out. But I'm curious because this year, a lot of you guys in the chat been mentioning some really good teams. Kansas State is intriguing. When you talk about some of the double-digit seeds, is there a double-digit seed that can sneak into the Final Four? I think if any double-digit seed snuck into the Final Four, we're talking about a team like Iona. I think Michigan State could potentially make a run. Tom Izzo's known for taking teams that are a bit undermanned deep into the tournament, similar to what he did when he had Draymond Green. So we have to take that into consideration as well. Coaching is going to play a big part in this. Teams like Marquette with Shaka Smart. And man, that East region is tough. All the blue bloods seem to be loaded into that East region, from Kentucky to Duke, Purdue. All these teams loaded into the East region. Who survives the East region? One of the toughest regions I've seen in a long time. Look at him. He said it's virgins, not West Virginia. There y'all go with the cringy jokes, man. Y'all got to stop, man. Y'all got to stop with the cringe jokes, man. Y'all silly. But look, y'all, that's the FYF Sports Bracket Challenge right there, man. Y'all see the picks that we made. I'm going to be very curious to see how this unfolds as we get into the tournament. I'm going to be watching the play-in games because I think that Arizona State-Nevada matchup is going to be interesting. I think Arizona State wins it. I don't think either one of them teams can advance. I think the only team of those two that can advance is Arizona, but I think over the last couple of years, these play-in teams, we've seen these play-in teams actually come in and be formidable. And so there's something left to be said about these teams getting a game under their belt, kind of getting the jitters out. It's like they have a one-game head start against the team that they're going up against. So sometimes that matters. So many factors you want to take into consideration. Basketball considerations, non-basketball consideration, it all changes on a game-to-game basis. So this year, I wasn't as interested in the tournament last year. There was a lot left to be desired last year. There wasn't so many storylines. There wasn't as many narratives. I thought college basketball kind of took a step back last year, and it got boring. I think they did a good year creating more narratives this year, more storylines from Purdue, to the Alabamas. Obviously, there was a ton of things going on off the court with some of these teams, good and bad. We saw a lot of movement with coaching. Shaka Smart being at Marquette, I think he's been there a while now. Potentially, we're going to see coaches coach their last game. One of these coaches who gets their team to excel, one of these coaches is going to find himself at a Georgetown, at a St. John's, at one of these bigger schools where the coaches have been fired. And we're just seeing trends change. I'm going to be doing another video this week about the NIL and how the NIL has impacted college basketball. The NIL has really leveled the playing field. So now we see all these blue bloods struggling. The Kentuckys, the North Carolinas, the Dukes struggle early in the year. The typical blue blood schools are struggling because now they're walking up on the NC States and some of the lower schools, and they also have their own 5-star recruits to walk around and bolster. Jared Thomas says, is your team you coach more of an offensive or defensive team? I coach, they're both. So obviously we were the best defensive team on the West Coast. So we held teams to about 40 points per game. We averaged about 70 points per game. So for us, we're both. The way I coach, Jared, is just right here. I tell my players, I don't care about missed shots. I care about what you do after you miss the shot, if you even miss it. I don't want my guys on the offensive end thinking that if they miss a shot, they're coming out the game. I want them thinking on the defensive end, if I don't get this stop, I'm coming out the game. So I would much rather them be locked in on the defensive side of the ball, because the way we practice our offense, like obviously we have our sets, our continuity sets. I run a lot of stuff that Gonzaga runs. I spread them out. I created an offense called 4 corners that I've created that teams struggle to guard. It works against man and zone, but it creates so much space. It spaces teams out so much. It puts them in situations where defenses have to constantly think. I run a lot of zoom actions, which is a pro set. A lot of NBA teams run it. So I'm running a lot of sets that make defenses think. And that kind of translates to the coaches that we see in college basketball. What coaches in this tournament are simplifying it on the offensive end, but confusing teams on the defensive end? And it all translates very well. Duke has picked it up on the defensive end. They're one of those teams. Alabama is definitely one of those teams. But for me, it's about letting them play free offensively, while defensively, we're going no middle. I'm a no middle type defensive coach. I hate it when I think the hardest thing to guard is a great playmaker. If you have a guy on the floor that play makes, it's hard to defend that. The easiest thing to defend is somebody putting their head down trying to go ISO. I love those type of players. We can defend that, but it's hard to defend playmaking, because once the playmaker starts getting everybody involved, you're going to get cooked. So we go no middle. We don't allow people to get to the middle of the floor. They get too many options. We force everything baseline. We send weak side help. We never help strong side from the corners. And we contest all threes. And when we get the ball, we work on all 5 guys being able to push the ball up the court, because we have so many shooters. So we play fast. We defend first. And, we have our own regional tournament. Our regional tournament is April 1st. So we're going to be going out to UCLA. We got some work to do because USC is tough. UCLA is tough. Cal Poly's tough. We got to get through this small regional tournament. But once we win the regional tournament, we'll be headed to Pittsburgh for the Nationals. And we'll be making our national championship run at that time. And a lot of people are doubting us. They're not giving us any respect, even though we are 25-3 record on 25-3 record on the season. They're not really respecting us in the rankings. So we're gonna have to make them put some respect on our name. Nobody wants to play us. I would tell you that right now. Nobody wants to play us. There will be fear in the other team's eyes when they see GCU. They get matched up against GCU. No, they are. We're probably the most hated club team on the West Coast, and it's not necessarily because of me. Which even though I don't tell my team to take their foot off the gas, the one thing I hate is when the team knows that they're defeated, but you still sending guys out there and they playing extremely hard, even though you get blasted by 35 with a minute to go. You still got guys out there trying to dunk. So I tell my guys, all right, they want to keep dunking. We're going to really show them how to do it all the way to the clock is 0. We had a school last year when I was at when we were at the Nationals. We played Denver University, and they were doing that. We were up 100. We were up 100 to 40. But they guys out there at the end of the game trying to dunk it. I was like, all right. We ran off another 20 points on them. The coaches didn't even want to shake my hand after the game. It was crazy. So yeah, Jared, we got a solid squad. We got a solid squad. Nobody wants to play us. We did lose our starting point guard. I actually was going to have him on the show today, but they're preparing for the tournament because our starting point guard for the club team here at GCU, he got called up to the D1 team. So now he got leveled up. So we lost our best point guard. He was freshman of the year last year. But we have had a lot of guys step up into his shoes and replace him. So a lot of people thought, oh, GCU's vulnerable. They lost their point guard. The guy that did everything. Nah. We just got more lethal. We just moved the ball better now. But y'all have it right there. Y'all see how the bracket unfolds, man. Salute to Jason Brown, Jared, Mick, Gogol. Salute to everybody that pulled up today, man. I think it was a great stream. I know we don't do a lot of college basketball talk, but obviously during this time of year, we have to cover it. We have to touch on it. And that's primarily because a lot of these guys that we watching are going to be moving on to the NBA soon. So by us following these games, it kind of gives us a early look at some of these guys and how they potentially might turn out into the NBA. It's a ton of players. I think a lot of questions are around Zach Edey. How will his game translate to the NBA? Right? A lot of questions are going to be around the players at Houston or even at Alabama. How will their games translate to the NBA? Right? Are players like Victor Wembanyama, because we're looking at those types of players, Scoot Henderson, these types of guys in the G League, Ignite, are we overlooking the talent that's in college basketball right now? Could potentially one of these guys pan out to be much better players, right? You got Ray Harrison for GCU. He's an NBA talent. Not really getting much notoriety right now. But if they make a run in NCAA tournament, he can literally create his own draft stock. If they can beat Gonzaga. If they can find a way to sneak into the Sweet 16. And he really puts his name out there as a guy that can carry a team. And that's what you do when you're an NBA level talent. When you're an NBA level talent, you get your team deep into the tournament, whether it's Sweet 16, Elite 8, just like Steph Curry did, just like CJ did, just like Damian Lillard did. Right? When you are an NBA level talent, you will get your team to play above expectations. Hitman X says, Edey is a second-round pick, respectfully. You might think that, but he's going to go first round. And Max Abrams, first-round pick. I believe Max Abrams is a first-round pick. Are you talking about Carmelo Anthony taking the Syracuse job? They will never give a Syracuse job to Carmelo Anthony. I think they already announced who the coach was. Basically, Boeheim selected who the next coach was. They already announced it. So we already know who the next coach of Syracuse is going to be. I think he was like an assistant that was there. You know, I mean, the man coached dang near 50 years. And you said just like Nico Mannion? You said Nicole. You didn't even say Nico. You said Nicole Mannion. That's just so disrespectful. Look, just because they get drafted at a certain spot doesn't mean they're going to be good. I'm just telling you where he's going to possibly get drafted. Where you get drafted has nothing to do with what you might do in the NBA. But Zach Edey's going to go first round. Has nothing to do with how well he might do in the NBA, but he's going to go first round. He could be better than a lot of people project. More than likely, he probably won't be as good as people project, but he's going to go first round. But it's a lot of talent out there. It's a lot of talent out there. I mean, obviously, North Carolina, they turned down the NIT bid, so their season is officially over. And the one thing that I know, when teams turn down the NIT, that tells me they're going to have either a ton of transfers or there's a ton of unhappy players. Whenever teams turn down the NIT, they're just trying to get the season over with so they can move on and get guys out of there. Teams that go to the NIT are looking to build that unit and prepare for the next year. There should be a massive turnaround in North Carolina this year. Nah, that wasn't no typo hit, man. That wasn't no typo. But look, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get this one shut down, man. We're going right up on the 2-hour mark, man. I definitely appreciate you guys pulling up today. Great stream. I appreciate you guys giving y'all insight on some of these picks, man. Before we get up out of here, if you guys can or want to support, man, just hit the cash out. $FYF Sports, or just hit the link in the chat, man. Anything you donate is going to be much appreciated. Like I said, we try to take all the proceeds that we get and flip it back into the channel as far as marketing, promoting, editing, production, things like that. We try to flip it back in. Seton Hall or St. John's for the NIT title. I don't know. I normally don't really follow the NIT too much, but when I do those NIT brackets, they never go the way I think. It's just like the women's tournament. I don't know. When I look at the women's tournament bracket, I don't know what the hell to pick or how to predict it. It's so weird. So yeah, the NIT, it is what it is. Hopefully those teams, when I see those teams in NIT, I'm just saying, hopefully they're preparing to have a much better year the next season. And that's the only thing you can really hope for when you see these teams in NIT. But you guys, we're going to go ahead and get this one shut down. We'll be back to the NBA talk. We're going to be back to the NBA talk on the next live stream. I'm going to be trying my best. I'm going to try to reach out to some of the GCU players before they head out. Guys like Ray Harrison, guys like Kobe Knox. I'm going to bring hopefully I can bring my point guard in, Dave. I know they're really busy right now with practicing and trying to get things in order for their trip to Denver. But I'm going to see if I can get some of these players on here before they head out, just so we can kind of get an idea of what's going on in their mind, their mentality, their mindset before this big game. What's going to be their approach, right? When you know you got to play one of the best teams in the country, one of the best players in Drew Timme, right? How do you approach it? See, I think a lot of us don't understand this aspect of it, because a lot of these games, a lot of these upsets that happen, they start to happen right now. This is where the players start to get the confidence that they can even win, right? This is where they honing in, locking in. This is where they scouting the other team's best players or defensive assignments, identifying where they can exploit it. Who's going to really do their research? Remember, we say research purposes only. What players are going to lock in and do the most research? So I'm going to be reaching out. I'm going to try my best. Hopefully I can get some of those GCU players and or coaches over here just to kind of get their mindset. And I think the one thing that I love to see when I was watching that GCU coaching staff with Bryce Drew and those guys is when they knew they had to WAC championship one, man, I watched that whole group of coaches come together and give each other a big hug, because it's just like, man, all the hard work we put in paid off. All the ups and downs, injuries, not having a true point guard on the team, other guys having to step up and play different roles, and we still got it done, man. That's a beautiful thing when you're a coach, man, to have that feeling. So it'd be nice to get Jamal Walker and Casey Shaw and those guys in here to kind of talk about just that moment, man, just to see everything that you work on come to fruition like that. And now you have an opportunity to really put GCU on the map in the NCAA tournament in a favorable matchup. Like, you really couldn't ask for a better matchup as a 14 seed. So, man, salute to GCU. We're going to work to get those guys on this week, man. Eric Quan, I see you in there. Donovan McCrabb, I see you, man. Like I said, salute. We're going to go ahead and shut this one down, man. We're going to get back to the NBA to talk tomorrow. Hopefully we can get some of the GCU players and coaches in here this week before they head out to Denver, get a gauge on them. So we'll be working on a ton of different things. We still got our NBA interviews. What I'm going to be doing is all the NBA player interviews that I have, and I've done a number of NBA player interviews that, for whatever reason, a lot of you guys aren't going over to Newsbreak to watch. And because what I found out is Newsbreak is taking the interviews down, or they automatically get taken down after so much time. So you guys miss out on them. So what Newsbreak is allowing me to do is Newsbreak is allowing me to put those interviews behind a paywall over on Patreon. So I'm gonna put the Patreon link in the chat right now. I just gotta find it real quick. Here it is right here. Let me get you guys over. Let me get you guys, if you want to watch the player interviews that we have, the ones with Devin Booker, the one with Mikal Bridges before he left, PJ Tucker, Scott Williams, things of that nature. We had a Bill Whittington, a Scott Pollard interview. If y'all want to watch these player interviews that we've been able to do, can't release them on YouTube. But we will be putting them on Patreon. So make sure you guys follow us on Patreon. Make sure you go support us over there. I'm going to be putting all of that content that you don't want to miss out on over on Patreon. Jared says, are you more of the yeller or laid back coach? I'm laid back. Sometimes I have to get into my players, but it's extremely rare. And I think my guys know that if I get on them really tough, it's usually for a good reason. But like I said, when I get on my players, if I get on a guy, I don't like to put a negative with a negative. So if you yell at a guy, you don't never want to yell at a guy and then take him out the game. That's like two negatives. So you don't want to consistently hit your players with these double negatives. You want to give the negative if you got to yell at a guy, but then leave him in the game and let him play through the mistake. Then you hit him up with a positive right behind. And a lot of times I think that's when you see the most positive response from players. When you get on them tough, like I did last year when we were playing Mississippi State, when we went to nationals, I got on my best player, right? I basically told him, I was like, you got too much talent to be playing like this. It's like, how you got all this talent? You a high D1 level player, but you playing like you a scrub. He woke up, ended up dunking on the 7-footer and everything. Gave me a couple 50-point games. So, sometimes you have to, but the consistent yelling and just having your guys get on the line, Jared, and just run suicides for absolutely no reason, or run suicides, them days are over with. There's ways to give cardio without just running. I don't want to waste practice time running sprints and suicides. Right? We can go Laker layups for cardio conditioning. We can do our 50-shot drill. There's so many other things that you can do that's more beneficial, man. Right? But I'm literally watching a ton of coaches at the D1 level. I'm looking at these coaches and I know 100% certain that I'm better than them. Coaching. They might edge me out on the networking and recruiting, but as far as X's and O's and coaching, you ain't gonna find too many coaches that can outcoach me. I think there's only been one time where I can say I've been literally outcoached. And that was the guy that I learned from. Alvin Gentry is a good comp for you, Lamont, laid back. It is. I don't really compare myself to anybody. I don't like to compare myself as a coach to anybody. Your coaching style is your coaching style. And then if you have a certain coaching style, that means you're going to be bringing players in that work with your style. You said tip drill? Hell no, bro. Bro, man, these coaches be doing some stupid drills and stuff, man. You use the summertime to get your guys in shape, run up hills and condition and all that stuff, man. I'm not about to be in practices doing these dumb drills, man. But we working on in-game stuff, man. Like I have a drill, Jason, called cluster. All right. Cluster is basically where we're playing 3-on-3 in a very small, confined portion of the court. You can't cross this line. You got to play 3-on-3 in a very boxed-in section. Why do I want you to play in clutter? Because that's generally what the offense turns into in an actual game. Guys get cluttered up into one section of the court. So I put them in a cluttered section of the court, make them play 3-on-3. Now you got to learn how to play in clutter. So now when you get in the game, you feel like it's natural to play when it's all cluttered. And you definitely gonna cook when you get some more spacing. I just don't like wasting time, man. I like putting up a lot of like at this, especially at this time of year. Look, Jason Brown, we're 25-3. We didn't play 28 games. At this stage in the season, they tired of listening to me talk. They tired of running the same plays over and over in practice. So at this time of the year, we just doing all skill work. Just like our last practice, we did a little defensive work, defensive shell, and then we put up shots. And then can't nobody leave practice until you make 10 free throws in a row. Then we out. No, we definitely not old school. Hell, old school and we shooting about 25, 33s a game. That ain't no old school. We play fast. Well, just because we defend don't mean we old school, Jared. Y'all be acting like defending is old school. No, teams still actually go defend, Jared. It ain't nothing new. You know what I'm saying? Like it ain't nothing old school about defending. We defend and we play fast. I run a lot of lift actions to the weak side. 3-point shooters, let it fly. Even my non-3-point shooters let it fly. I got a point guard. One of my guards, this dude will shoot some threes, but sometimes they go in. And that's the beauty of the 3-point shot. And that's why I always encourage my guys to shoot the three. Because you might get lucky and it might go in. You said hard-nosed defenses. No, it's not, Jared. You say it, but Jared, I'm coaching against teams now that are hard-nosed defensively. We just play when we play South Mountain Community College, they play hard-nosed defense. When we play PHH, they play hard-nosed defense. No, we don't ice. No, we don't ice, Jason. We don't ice a lot. And I don't like to get my guys in the habit of defending the pick and roll one way, Jason. What I do is I teach them all the variations of ways you can handle pick and rolls. And I basically say, figure it out in game. Maybe a certain moment calls for you to hedge and recover. Maybe another moment calls for you to switch. Maybe other moments call for you to ice and fight over. But unlike some coaches, I'm not going to tell them to defend the pick and roll one single way. I'm going to give them all of the weapons they need for it. Be like, use it as you see fit. Switch it up when you need to see fit based on the personnel and things like that. But a lot of teams can't really pick and roll with us a lot anyway, because we have so much strong side help. So even if you pick and roll, like I try to tell people, we gonna turn these, like for you to beat us, you better have Magic Johnson, because you better be able to make some of the most difficult passes to the weak side that I've ever seen. And even if you make that pass, them dudes better be able to knock the shot down. Because we loading up ball side, you better be Magic Johnson. And you're not going to get to the middle of the floor. And my point guard is going to pick you up full court. Bro. And look, Jared keeps saying it's old school. But Jared, I keep telling you, defense ain't old school. That's how you win. How you think we got to the national championship game, Jared? Just because we was the only, you think we was the only team that decided to play defense? I mean, the national championship game was probably our lowest scoring game of the year. I think it was like 48-42. Both teams was locking up on defense. You said you played with a lot of slower bigs, so you couldn't. Yeah, I guess. It's how you switch though. So Jason, what I like to do is I teach my team how to switch properly. Right? There's a right way to switch and there's a wrong way to switch. If you switch wrong, then a good point guard is just going to split and slice you up. There's you can switch correctly. But Jared, but teams are scoring more, Jared, not because of bad defense. Teams are scoring more because the pace of play is picking up. They're just picking up the pace. Like when you look to the 90s, the pace wasn't the scoring wasn't down in the 90s because of great defense. Scoring was down in the 90s because of slower pace. Because of illegal defense, teams decided to utilize the majority of the shot clock by getting the ball to their best player. And that player would go ISO and go score. Slower pace. The only era that was seriously impacted by defense was the 2000s. The 2000s, when they really opened the game up and you gave all of these great defensive teams the weapon of the zone, and no team in the league had enough time to adjust to it, that's when defense was king in the NBA. That's when defense really dictated everything in the NBA. But it's just pace. Teams still defend. Like my next video, I'm going to be talking about that. Well, let me fix this real quick. There we go. So yeah. We gotta stop. She says back in the old days, games were regularly in the 60 to 80. What old days are you talking about? But what are the old days? Are you talking about there was no games in the 90s were not 60 to 80? That's not true. Average points per game in the 90s was still in the hundreds. 90 to 100. There's no what old days? It definitely wasn't that low in the 80s. Wasn't that low in the 70s. It was truly only that low, and it wasn't even that low. It was only low in the 2000s. The 2000s isn't the old days, Jared. That's still within the 20-year window. That's not the old days. Well, that means you're saying LeBron James played back in the old days? When LeBron came in the league in 2003. Are you saying if you're calling the old days the 2000, that means LeBron James played in the old days? That makes no sense, Jared. That's not the old days. Pacers Pistons games were okay. But I've already told you that the 2000s was impacted by defense. That's not the old days. That's more recent to us than it was old. I mean, I would consider 98 on up more recent than anything. 97 down is you can start getting to come close to calling it the old days. But we can talk about all that stuff later, y'all. Let me get this one shut down. Salute to Jared, man. Jared, you got to start coming on these panels again, man. Jared, you just been in the comments being a chat warrior lately, man. We gotta get you back. We gotta get you back going. We got to get you back cooking, man. And we're going to make that happen. But yeah, we're going to be back live tomorrow morning. Make sure y'all lock us in. If you haven't subscribed already, we're going to be live probably 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Probably 2 hours off if you're on the East Coast. But we definitely going to get back live. NBA talk tomorrow. Tomorrow I want to talk about some things that JJ Redick said. I'm going to be playing some video from JJ Redick. We're really going to be breaking that down and disseminating that tomorrow. As all the while we follow the NCAA tournament. Hey, y'all, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great podcast episode. We're going to be back with more sports and news, y'all. Until then, it's FYF Sports. And we out.